Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to dive into a question that honestly shapes everything: our tech, our politics, our entire future. What does it actually mean to be human? In this explainer, we're going to explore two radically different blueprints for our identity and see where each one takes us.
So let's just start with the big one. What defines a human being? Is it our DNA, our brain, our ability to create art or to love? In an age of AI and gene editing, this isn't just some dusty old philosophical question. It is one of the most urgent, practical questions we could possibly ask ourselves. So for this explainer, we're going to lean on a really deep analysis of Joseph Ratzinger's thought to unpack two profoundly different answers to that question. You can think of them as two competing roadmaps for who we are and who we're going to become. Okay, let's walk down the first path. This is the view that sees all of us, humanity, as basically an accident, a random product of a universe that has no built-in meaning. The source material we're looking at traces the modern roots of this idea back to a specific intellectual movement, the German Enlightenment, or as it's known, the Aufklärung.
Now, the argument here is that while the Aufklärung was all about championing reason, it also kind of narrowed our idea of what science is. It started to define knowledge as only what you can measure, calculate, and prove with math. And the result? All these huge parts of the human experience, questions about purpose, morality, beauty, God, they got pushed to the side. They were no longer seen as real knowledge, just subjective feelings.
And you can see this created a fundamental fork in the road. On one side, you've got a universe that's grounded in what the source calls logos, this idea of a creative reason, an inherent logic woven into the fabric of reality itself. But on the other side, you've got a cosmos of pure causality. Just stuff bumping into other stuff. It's just matter, chance, and physics. And in that view, any purpose we think we see is really just a story we're telling ourselves.
So if you go down that road, if you accept a universe that's just physical stuff, well, there's no room left for anything transcendent. The whole idea of a human soul, some eternal part of us, gets, as the source text says, jettisoned, thrown overboard. We get reduced to our biology, just a very complex machine made of atoms. And this right here is the intellectual launchpad for seeing human beings as something that can be engineered, upgraded, or maybe even thrown away.
Think about it. If there's no God, no soul, and no built-in purpose to anything, what's left? How do we decide what's right and what's wrong? Well, this path leads us straight to the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche and his incredibly famous idea, the will to power.
Okay, so the logic here kind of unfolds in four main steps. First, you get rid of the whole idea of a creative reason. That means humans aren't a creation anymore. We have to create ourselves and invent our own values from nothing. Now, in that struggle for self-creation, anyone who's weak or suffering isn't someone to feel compassion for. They're seen as failures in the project. In the final step, morality itself just becomes whatever the strong, the Übermensch or the Superman says it is. Power makes right.
This quote, drawn from the source's analysis of Nietzsche, is just chilling. It really lays bare the brutal logic of a world based only on strength. The sick are man's greatest danger, not the evil, not the beasts of prey. What that means is that, in this worldview, weakness is the ultimate threat because it challenges the whole system of power just by existing.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical game. This isn't just ivory tower stuff. The source draws a direct line from this Nietzschean idea of the power-driven human to the absolute catastrophes of the 20th century, like Nazism and fascism. The argument is that when humanity tries to become its own god, the results can be, well, devastating.
But there is another path, and this is the second blueprint for humanity that this analysis offers. It's one that starts not with a random, chaotic universe, but with the idea that reason actually has a human face, and that our identity is rooted in being the image of God.
So at the heart of this second path is a much richer, deeper understanding of that word we saw before, logos. It's not just some abstract cosmic law or cold computer logic. The source explains it as a creative reason that is at its core relational. It's a son, and ultimately, it's a person. And what that means is that the universe isn't a machine, it's grounded in a relationship.
This leads directly to the core claim of this entire worldview, summed up in the Latin phrase imago Dei, the idea that we are all made in the image and likeness of God. And the really crucial thing to get here is that our identity isn't something we have to invent out of thin air. It's a gift. It's given to us by a creator.
And this idea, well, it has absolutely massive implications for human dignity.
Because we all share that common origin. Every single person, no matter their ability, their health, their status, has a sacred, inviolable worth. Our value isn't based on what we can do or how useful or strong we are. It's based simply on the fact that we are. We're made for connection, for relationship.
So, where does this all lead? According to Ratzinger's thought, this path doesn't just end with some abstract idea. It ends with a specific, concrete person in history, who, he argues, is the ultimate definition of what it means to be truly human.
Ecce homo, behold the man. These are the famous words of Pontius Pilate as he presents a beaten, broken, humiliated Jesus. Now, for Ratzinger, this is not a picture of failure. It's a paradox. This, he argues, is the definitive answer to our question. This is the true portrait of humanity in its fullness.
So here it is, the two paths, right next to each other. On the left, you've got Nietzsche's Übermensch, the ideal human as pure power, pure self-assertion. And on the right, you have Ecce homo, the ideal human as self-giving love, someone who finds meaning precisely in connection and even in vulnerability. It's really a choice between conquering the world and loving the world. So what this all means is that this second path concludes we find our truest, most authentic selves not by imposing our will on everyone else, but in the act of giving ourselves away in love. In this view, God's response to our fragility, to the fact that we're made from dust, isn't dismissal. It's a love that pursues us all the way to the end. And that leaves us right here, with the crucial question for our time. As technologies like AI and gene editing give us this incredible, almost godlike power to reshape life itself, which vision are we going to choose? Will our future be guided by the will to power or by the call to love? The blueprint we pick is going to define absolutely everything.